Our first speaker is Lauren Erikison, and she's a senior program manager with Rutgers Cooperative Extension. And she's going to be speaking to us about growing opportunities through urban farm markets. Before Lauren joined us here at Rutgers, she coordinated educational programs for nonprofit organizations that's focused on farming. And she was co-owner of a horse-powered vegetable farm in Maine. And up in Maine, she founded a farmer's market and a local food cooperative. So we have someone that has experience in farming directly. So happy to have you with us this evening, Lauren.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm glad I could be here to chat with you. I'm going to give a brief overview of some opportunities thinking about urban farmers markets. So one of the things that I'm sure you've started to hear about and are thinking about are your customers. And as we've heard, it's important to know your customers and really think about having a product that can match the diverse needs of customers. And one of the things that we really have to our advantage here in New Jersey is diversity. So to give you an overview of what I'll discuss with you today, we're going to talk about why urban farmers markets, and I'm going to share a little bit about our own New Brunswick Community Farmers Market that's based here in New Brunswick as an example. I'm going to spend the bulk of our time talking about food preferences of urban customers, specifically fruits and vegetables in general, and then also some things that we've been learning about culturally relevant fruits and vegetables. And then I have just a slide or two at the end to kind of talk about finding the right fit of market to your farm. So why urban markets? I work with Extension primarily to think about resolving food security issues in urban areas. So one of the things that comes to mind for me often are barriers to food access. So we know that cost in urban areas is a major limit for a lot of people who maybe want to eat healthy but have trouble affording doing so. We know that transportation is tough. That ties into food availability. So are there healthy food choices nearby? And if not, can people get to them? Knowledge is another piece that we hear about. So knowing how to make healthy food choices, how to prepare food, having a skill set linked to healthy food choices. So all of these things can get in the way. However, one thing that cities really have going for them, of course, is population, which translates to customers. New Brunswick, as an example, has about 56,000 year-round residents, and well represented within that group are many different cultures and ethnicities. So that provides both some challenges, but in particular, opportunity. When we think about a diverse area, that generally comes with a lot of diverse food preferences. So for those of you who are thinking about specialty products or a special market, or maybe aren't going to be quite the large enough farm to provide all of the possible fruits and vegetables, you might be able to think about some niche markets. So we're going to talk about that a little bit this evening. So our New Brunswick Community Farmers Market is basically focused on increasing the availability and affordability of fresh fruits and vegetables. We do this by operating in 3 locations throughout the city. Again, thinking about transportation, can people get to the food? We want to be in places where people can access what we're offering. We also accept federal food assistance benefits. So this is something we're thinking about, again, when considering your business model. We know that there is need everywhere in every community throughout New Jersey. So considering accepting federal food assistance benefits like SNAP benefits, like WIC and Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program benefits can be a real addition to your business and provide a good service to the community at the same time. We also run a Market Bucks or a Double Bucks incentive program. So we have very generous support from Johnson & Johnson and also from some other sponsors to provide double value for customers shopping with food assistance benefits at our market, trying to reduce that barrier of costs. However, maintaining at the same time that our farmers get paid full price for the products that they're offering to customers. We also offer nutrition education activities. So I mentioned knowledge and food preparation skill as being something that's important, and that would be something worth thinking about as you explore your different customer markets. You might not have to teach them not only about your products or about why they're important because they're coming from a local farm, but what to do with them when they get home. So that's something we try to tie into our markets, make it a little easier for our vendors so that they don't have to do as much education. We can kind of take care of that for them. We also offer children's programming. So one of the things we see at our urban markets, whether they're weekends or even during the weekdays during the summer, is that families come to the market together. So having something for the kids to engage in becomes really important as well. And we work with our vendors to try to have food samples available for the kids. We also have one of our market locations where urban gardens surround the area where the market exists. So we have opportunities to get the kids to the gardens, let them get their hands in the dirt, and start learning through some hands-on experiences what it's like to produce some of the types of food that they're seeing. We see, on average, the past few years, we've seen around 10,000 customers per year across our 3 locations. 2019, we saw just over 13,000. So we're super excited to have a bump in our participation, trying to build that year after year after year. So this is all to say there's a lot of opportunity for local farms with urban markets, but a key question is, what do people want to buy? And that's true for any market, and we're going to talk about urban markets, but that's true everywhere. So what do people want? We know that major drivers of food choice, or the things that influence what people choose to eat, include taste, right? That's a big one, but also cost, familiarity, again, knowledge. All of these things play into choice. But how do we know which is the most important and which types of food people really want to buy? We ask them. So I'm going to tell you about our Market Ambassadors project. This is a USDA grant-funded project that was designed to, first of all, identify food preferences within our urban communities. As I mentioned, we know we're serving a really diverse audience. We know that food choices vary, so let's figure out what types of things people want to buy. The second objective is to work with local farmers and growers to make these products available. So learn what they are, bring them to the market, and then the third phase of the project is to increase customers at the market through promotion. So here's a timeline of our project, which I'm going to put up on the screen, but I'm not going to go through in detail because you can access this full presentation online through the Annie's Project website. So I'm going to leave that there for you to check out when you have a minute. But basically what I'm going to focus on now is phase 1 of the project. So this is our 2019 session. So what we wanted to do is identify these produce choices. What we did is we worked with a group of people who we called market ambassadors that we hired from our local community. We had 3 market ambassadors, and their goal was to conduct surveys throughout the New Brunswick community. And we asked a whole series of questions, but the 3 main questions were asking people to tell us the 3 most important fruits, the 3 most important vegetables, and also the foods that they wanted to have but couldn't find in New Brunswick that we could maybe start to provide for them through our farmers market. So this is kind of our market research, learning, okay, what kinds of things do people want? So what we did is we went to organizations and groups and places where we know people go, because again, we know New Brunswick is diverse. We wanted to hear from as many people as we could and get as many different opinions as possible. So we went to churches, we went to cultural centers, we went to schools and asked people our survey questions. We also conducted some surveys at our farmers markets. And what this let us do is hear from people who are already customers so we can meet their needs, but also hear from people who are not customers yet. We conducted 851 surveys, so we talked to a pretty good amount of people. And here's what they told us. So first, I'll talk about fruit. So we asked people their 3 most important fruits. And to tell you the truth, we were not very surprised. So this is what we heard: apples, peaches, strawberries, bananas, grapes, watermelons, mangoes, oranges, blueberries, and cherries. I'm going to show you some highlighted text on this slide, which indicates things that we can grow really easily in New Jersey. So in green, peaches, strawberries, watermelon, blueberries. In the orange text, you can see things that we certainly can grow here: apples, grapes, cherries, but you don't find them as commonly around. So, you can find a lot of peaches, a lot of strawberries, but these other things are possible. So this is all good information for us, including the fruits that are still in the black text: bananas, mangoes, and oranges. Anyone ever heard of Jersey mangoes? Not so much. Maybe with climate change someday, but I don't think that's a good thing. So We potentially could. So there's a question for those of you participating remotely about high tunnels. I will ask, hold questions. I'm going to save a few minutes for questions at the end just so I can repeat them and those participating remotely can hear as well. So I'm about to tell you something a little bit taboo about our farmers market, but then I'm going to explain. So these different things, bananas, mangoes, oranges that we know people really like, we sell at our farmers markets. So we have a section for tropical produce. And why we do this is because we've heard from our customers who, again, have limited transportation, have trouble getting to the grocery store, to different places to buy different foods, that some of the tropical produce that we can't grow in New Jersey is really important to their either cultural diets or to their children's food preferences or to whatever it may be. These things are important. And people are going to get to a place where they can buy these things. And for a lot of our urban customers, that means choosing between one trip to the grocery store or one trip to the farmer's market. So if we don't have the mangoes, they're not coming to us, and they're not going to buy the Jersey tomatoes. So we've sort of made a compromise, and we work with growers who are able to purchase in some produce wholesale for us, because if we tell people that, hey, we have the mangoes and the oranges you want to buy, while you're here, you can also buy Jersey tomatoes, Jersey corn, Jersey broccoli, all of these wonderful vegetables along with the fruits you saw on the prior slide that are Jersey grown, are Jersey fresh. So it's sort of a way that we've been able to figure out how to meet our unique customers' needs and also include some education. So I mentioned we talk about nutrition education. We also try to tie in agricultural education. So we let people know, while maybe they've come to the market because they have a food voucher that we accept and because we have mangoes and oranges that they want, we also make a point to demonstrate, here's all the local produce that's grown in New Jersey that you can buy with Farmers Market Nutrition Program vouchers, for example, and that you can see growing in our urban gardens that are right near the farmers market. So it's kind of a process of meeting people where they are, meeting their needs, and then building upon them to increase the local ag sales along with the other things. So you'll notice my vegetable list of our top 10 vegetables, all in green, all readily grown in New Jersey, which is fantastic. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and go over to our other question, which had to do with the types of produce that people want to buy in New Brunswick but can't find very easily here. So I'm going to talk about, through 3 different slides, about some different products that we are really interested in exploring as a market. So one, and I've kind of lumped these all together despite there being some distinct differences, is greens. So we've heard things like dandelion greens, which can be eaten raw in salads, which can be cooked and sauteed, which kind of grow as a weed. So something pretty exciting to think about. There's a market for certain things that might be really easy to grow here in New Jersey. Tatsoi and bok choy are Asian greens that you're probably already familiar with. If you're not yet, I highly recommend them. They're quite cold hardy, which is great for growing in New Jersey. Something called quintonilles, which is this bottom left corner slide. It looks a lot like amaranth because it's a kind of amaranth, which is, again, sort of a dirty word for some farmers because it can grow like a rampant weed, but it's also something that is a fantastic sauteed green and important to a lot of different cultural dishes. So this slide with the different kinds of greens in particular is a good reminder to think outside the box a little bit. And again, know your market, know what people want. Maybe people already want these things. And if they don't, maybe you can teach them about some of these things if there's a way for them to work into your marketing plan. Another one that we heard about is nopales, or the prickly pear cactus. So cactus pads and cactus fruits are really important to a lot of Central and Latin American cuisine. They would normally use a different species of cactus, but our prickly pear cactus here in New Jersey might have some culinary potential, at least for the cactus pads. The fruits take a little bit longer to mature and might be difficult to get at the size that would be needed for marketability. But again, something to kind of think outside the box. Coyote squash is another one. This is, again, popular with Central and Latin American cuisine. It's a type of summer squash, not unlike a zucchini. It can be eaten raw or cooked. And I included this photo on the slide on the right because it shows the coyote squash growing up a chain link fence in an urban area. So again, something to think about. What can we grow in particularly urban areas or urban fringe places that can meet the needs of customers right in our neighborhoods? So what's next? For us as a market, taking some of this information, working with local growers to make it available will be our next step. We want to work with some of our current vendors to start bringing these things in, but we're also interested in new vendors. So as I mentioned when we started, looking for potentially some specialty growers who are interested in some niche crops to grow and provide for the market. And then once we have these things available, promotion, promotion, promotion. We want to go back to all of those churches and schools and tell people, we heard you, we worked with our growers, now coming to buy all these wonderful things at the farmer's market. So just a couple quick tips to kind of summarize. If you're interested in joining an urban market, urban customers certainly have diverse food preferences that span from traditional crops, apples, tomatoes, corn, peaches, which we heard about, all the way through some really specific niche crops that we're continuing to learn about and experiment with. And it's important to know your audience as best you can. I talked about some of the barriers of fresh eating that exist, and just keeping those in mind as you develop a marketing plan is certainly important. And you can work around or work with or even capitalize on some of these things by working with a market manager. You could plug in, instead of market manager, store manager here if you're looking to wholesale. You can plug in restaurant manager here. So depending on your own unique marketing needs, you can really sort of ask some of these questions and figure out how you fit. So with that, I will move on to my thank you slide and take some questions from the group. If you're here in the room this evening, if you've written down a question, I think you can pass those forward. Or if you are participating remotely, I think Drew is going to make it so that we have a chat box. Yes. And I have my contact information here on the slide. Again, the PowerPoint presentation is on the website. And I did put, for those of you in the room, some of my business cards on the back table. So please feel free to take those.
How did you do the survey?
Okay, so the question was, how did we do the survey? So we basically wrote a survey in-house. We developed the questions, and then our market ambassador team went out with paper and pencil copies of the survey and actually interfaced with all the people one-on-one and asked questions and logged answers. Did a lot of data entry back in the office, and we're actually in the data analysis phase now. So what I showed you today are the very basic sort of raw frequency counts of the top vegetables. But we have a lot of race ethnicity data and other information that we'll be working with this winter. Thank you. Okay, so here's a question. What are some important rules and regulations you set for your vendors? So we think through, we try to make it as easy as possible for our vendors to participate while also making it fair and equitable for all vendors who want to come in. So anyone doing prepared food is subject to state regulations. So that includes food prepared in a commercial kitchen that's inspected by the health inspector. We do require liability insurance. And then in terms of produce growers, we really work with vendors on kind of a one-on-one basis. You know, I talked about a lot of unique factors of our market that are true for many urban markets. So I try to have a conversation with anyone who's interested in vending first and foremost to kind of see if it is a good fit, because it's not a good fit for everyone, and that's okay. So we try to figure that out early on and then set ourselves up accordingly for success. Okay, here's a question. Do you meet any customers growing in their yards or balconies? Do you have any insight into why or why not? We have had, I would say, some but little interest in having people who are producing small scale come into the market thus far, but we also haven't publicized it widely. So I would say, you know, especially along the lines of the niche crops that we talked about, I'm very interested in small-scale growers who want to specialize in certain things coming in to sell at the market. I think a major barrier for anyone considering farmers markets is the time that it takes to be there. So you kind of need to make a baseline amount of money during the day of marketing there to make it worth your time, especially if you're paying someone. So a small-scale grower who's maybe producing part-time, who wants to sell a few things as an extra to supplement income might do better than someone who's trying to make a living doing, again, a very small scale production. So I think, okay, so I think I have to stop there because we're out of time. But again, please take my card and feel free to email me additional questions if you would like to do so. Good. Thank you.
You're going to introduce her.
Okay, sure. Oh, yeah, I can hold it.
You can just hold
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Try not to sit around too much.
Sure. Okay. Our next speaker is Carol Przewozny with B&B Livestock Farm in Glen Gardner, New Jersey. And her topic's going to be Why Have a Business Plan? A Farmer's Perspective. Carol's family farm produces beef, pork, poultry, and fresh eggs. She's also a special education teacher, and Carol was a member of the first Annie Project class that graduated in 2011.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. I've come a long way.